What is up, you guys? This is all Danny Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you a Revenant ability guide and rotations. So, with the Revenant, it's not really that hard of a class to play. Actually, it's really not a hard class at all to play as. It's definitely one of the strongest classes in the game. The abilities and everything is very, very, very simple. So, there's not much of a rotation that you would be confused about. It's all very, very simple. There are a lot of different ways that people, I wouldn't say a lot of different ways, but there are different ways that people do use the Revenant as when it comes to their damage rotations. But this is just one way that I normally go with. But I'm going to go ahead and read the abilities to you, and then I will show you the ability rotations. So let's go down to the abilities. So you've only got one stance, which is your basic stance, and then down in abilities you have Slashing Blow, Punishment, Dehydration, Slaughter, Gloomy Shadow, Destruction, Embrace of Pain, Death Steward, Absorption as your finisher. Then your two talents, you have Call of Torment and Inspiring Power. So the Revenant was actually nerfed on the PS4 version, but I honestly wouldn't consider it like a huge nerf. It did nerf the healing, making it to where it's pretty much every other time for dehydration to heal you. But normally, sometimes the second use of dehydration doesn't even proc. So, and then also Embrace of Pain and Death Steward, their cooldowns were increased up to 1 minute. But let's go ahead and read these abilities. So Slashing Blow, it says, alternatively, Axe Blow, which inflicts 6.78 million damage to the enemy and slow them down for 3 seconds. The Revenant's other attacks enhance the next 3 cutting blows, allowing them to inflict 100, 200, and 300% more damage. That is actually incorrect. They nerfed this as well. They nerfed the Slashing Blow down to where it's only the third hit that does the extra damage, and I'm pretty sure that third hit is only 100% more damage. It could be 1, 2, or 300, but I'm pretty sure it's just an extra 100% extra damage. It says, while also restoring energy and reducing the remaining cooldown of Death Steward and Embrace of Pain by 1 second, the third strike will inflict 300% more damage. The third enhanced cutting blow activates the companion's attack. So you know what, maybe it is the third hit that only does the 300%. But regardless, you don't get the first 2 swing bonuses anyways. So now you have Punishment. It's a 15-second cooldown and it uses 60 of your resource. Inflicts 20.3 million damage to the target if the target has less than 50% health. The damage is increased by 100% as well. A successful finishing ability will reset its cooldown and transfer a certain amount of health to the Revenant, which depends on the defeated enemy. So generally, the Punishment ability is good for against enemies that have 50% or less health. But I normally use this for one of my starter abilities. I'll show you the rotation I do when I get to that point. But yeah. And then you've got Slaughter. It's an 8-second cooldown with 70 resources. It consumes 70 resources. After activation, performs a quick circular strike with an axe within an 8-yard radius around him or her, dealing 33.9 million damage and slowing them down. The damage is increased by 50% for every enemy damaged with the ability, except for the first one. Up to 150% damage bonus when 4 targets are hit. With an 8% chance, Slashing Blow grants the Revenant the repulse effect, which increases the damage of the next slaughter by 150%, regardless of the number of damaged targets, and makes it free. Using the ability while under the repulse effect resets the remaining cooldown of Punishment, increases damage dealt to hit targets by 100%, and makes it free. And then you have Dehydration. It's a 20-second cooldown. Does not use any resources. It says it drains the target's life force for 3 seconds, dealing 15.8 million damage every second, and pulling the enemy to the Revenant. After 3 seconds, the target will be knocked down. Each second uses the ability, or Every use of the ability may restore 30% of this Revenant's health. Embrace of Pain, it's a 1-minute cooldown. It turns all incoming damage into healing and protects from control effects during 6 seconds. When the effect fades, all enemies within a 12-yard radius are horrified for 3 seconds. And then you've got Gloomy Shadows. It's a 15-second cooldown with no resource cost. The Revenant launches an illusion in the selected direction that moves forward 40 yards. When activating the ability again during an active illusion, the Revenant leaps towards it and deals 11.3 million damage to all targets in a 6-yard radius, hammering them into the ground. The ability inflicts significantly more damage if the illusion has lasted at least 1.5 seconds and the target has not been hit by Dark Shadow in this fight. Destruction, 18-second cooldown with no resource cost. No, it does have a resource cost. I'm pretty sure Destruction has a resource cost. Within several seconds, prepares a powerful blow which inflicts 90.4 million damage to the enemies in the front of the Revenant and knocks them down. While the attack is being prepared, the Revenant can move forward and at a reduced speed. And then you have Death Steward. It's a 1-minute cooldown. The Revenant summons a deadly aura with a 12-yard radius for 12 seconds. Within the area, enemies are slowed down and cannot dash, taking regular damage. The Revenant is immune to control effects. Their health and class abilities damage are increased by 60%. Energy regeneration rate is increased by 200%, and the cooldown of all attacks is reset. And then you have Absorption, which says available when the target has a small amount of health left, restores all energy, increases damage dealt by 50% for 12 seconds, and reduces the remaining cooldown of Death Steward by 20 seconds. So if you can eliminate, or if you can use Absorption on an enemy that's dying and you already have Death Steward on cooldown, that would bring it down to 40 seconds. Well, technically it would bring it down to like 30 something seconds or 28 seconds because of the fact that it lasts for 12 seconds itself. And then your talents, you have Call of Torment. Dehydration also works on monsters around the target. Inspiring Power, the Revenant duplicates the strongest aura of a support class character within a 40-yard radius. So with Dehydration or Call of Torment, it doesn't mean it's going to give you multiple enemy health or whatever. It's just, all it's doing is it's going to let you lift up multiple enemies. And then Inspiring Power, this will only work if you have a Lightbinder or an Alchemist on your team. If you have them on your team, then you'll also get the support aura that they have as well. So I'm going to go ahead and explain the way I do my rotation. So I normally use Gloomy Shadow as my, I guess, my opener ability, the ability I use first. So I would try to be within a certain distance from the enemy, so I can at least get those second and a half in. And then I would hit the enemy. Make sure when you use Gloomy Shadows, you trigger it, or you hit it the second time when you notice that the Gloomy Shadow or the shadow whatever is in front of the enemy. Because if you press it as soon as your Gloomy Shadow's on the enemy, then you're going to hit right past them. You're not going to hit directly on them. So I use Gloomy Shadow first, and then as soon as I hit, I use Punishment and then swing 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then after all that's done, I go ahead and use Dehydration. Whoops. I accidentally pressed L2 square. But yeah, you would hit Dehydration until that's over with. And then you go ahead and use Death Steward as soon as you get Death Steward, because when you use Dehydration, you'll get the crit chance increase. Actually, did they take that out? Because I don't see that in here anymore. Drains the target's life for 3 seconds, dealing 15.8 million damage every second and pulling it to the Revenant. After 3 seconds, target will be knocked down. Each second, yeah, so they took the crit chance out. Wow. Well, I never realized that. But, I mean, you can still go with this exact rotation that I'm going with anyways, because Dehydration is going to cool down anyways. I'm pretty sure it does. But, yeah, you use Dehydration and then go ahead and go into Death Steward. It would be especially better if you have the legendary weapon, the demon legendary weapon for the Revenant, because when you use Dehydration, you have a 50-50 chance of proccing the what's the weapon called? Or not the weapon, the spiral ability. I completely forgot what it's called. I'm just gonna call it the spiral axe or spiral. You're just gonna have the chance of proccing the legendary weapon special, pretty much. So that's from Dehydration though. It's a 50-50 chance, 50% RNG for that. And then you would go ahead and use Death Steward. And as soon as you get Death Steward to proc, you're gonna do this. You're gonna use triangle, square, square, square 3 times, triangle, and then square 3 times, and then you're gonna hold R2, and then square, square, square. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the small little rotation I go with the Revenant. So Gloomy Shadows, hit it as soon as you see the Gloomy Shadows hit the boss. Then you're gonna go ahead and hit triangle, and you can see the 3 stacks on the bottom left corner. It's counting down. You're gonna hit 1, 2, and 3. After you do that, you're gonna go ahead and hit Dehydration. When you hit Dehydration, go ahead and hit your Death Steward. If you got the legendary, go ahead and hit R2. And then you would use Circle as well if it pops up. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. When you have Death Steward active, you're gonna go ahead and hit triangle, square, 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 triangle, square, square, square. And then you would use Destructive. So that you can use all 3. You can use those 3 when you have Death Steward active. So I'll try to get it all to proc again when Death Steward's cooldown is done. Let me see if I can reduce the cooldown. It's at 9 seconds. Oops, I just dropped that. So I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully it doesn't kill him. I'm gonna go ahead and try to go through the whole rotation without stopping, so you guys can kind of see how it's supposed to go. One, 2, 3. Get Steward, and then axe. 1, 2, 3. Oh. 1, 2, 3, and then Destructive. After you use after you slaughtered twice already, then you would go into Destructive, and after you did that, you would just go back into the same rotation. So as soon as you use Destructive and you use square 3 times or X 3 times, depending on if you're on Xbox or PS4. This is going to be when your Death Steward just now ended. Once it ended, you're going to go ahead and hit triangle, square, 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 and then hold down L2 square again, and then you're going to just go ahead and use Destructive, and then 1, 2, 3, and then go ahead and use either Circle or Death Steward. If you have Death Steward active, like if it's available, hit that first before you hit Circle. That way you get that 60% more damage. Because like it says, Death Steward, it says you get 60% more damage and more health. Right there. So if you get slaughtered to proc, don't use it unless if you don't have Death Steward. If you don't have Death Steward, then go ahead, because you only get like a 7-second chance, a 7-second whatever it's called, duration of the ability being procced, or the free to be procced. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll show you guys one more time on this, and since the boss has a little bit more health, it'll probably be a little easier. I'm gonna wait till I got my Death Steward done and cooldown. 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright, so this is gonna be how it's gonna look. Hopefully, like I said, the boss doesn't get killed. And then X, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, I have Circle to proc. I'm gonna go ahead and hit Death Steward, then hit Circle, and then go with your rotation. 2, 3, axe, 1, 2, 3, and then you would hit them with the Destructive, and then after all that, you would go ahead and use 1, 2, 3 with the square 3 times again, and then you would hit the boss with the Dehydration, and then just keep the rotation going, pretty much. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this rotation and the ability guides. Like I said, there's not much to really worry about with the Revenant. Obviously, I mean, like, if you don't go with if you don't have a real rotation, you're gonna get out DPS'd by other players that have a rotation. You'll get outplayed and whatnot, because there have been people that do play as a Revenant that are 3 levels higher than me, so they're 117, and I've out DPS'd them as a Revenant because they're not going with a rotation, they're just swinging. Like, I've seen players just doing this, and you don't want to just keep doing this the whole time. You don't want to just wait for a triangle. You don't want to just, you don't want to just use random abilities. You want to make sure you can try to keep up your stacks and stuff, but you also want to make sure you use your dehydration on the right time. You want to make sure you use Death Steward. Don't just use Death Steward and then hit the boss with random stuff, and try not to hit the boss with Circle when you don't have Death Steward, just because it uses a lot of your energy, your resources, like this. Plus, it doesn't give you any stacks. It won't give you any stacks towards your basic attack, and that's what is gonna let you do a lot more damage, is your stacks. Well, the third hit from your basic attack is gonna let you do a lot more damage. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this video. If this helped you out at all, go and leave a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section. If you have any suggestions of anything, then let me know as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. This is all Danny Day 1 on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and peace.